Hello everyone, I'm Greg Weaver. Welcome to The Audio Analyst. I missed Rush's very first U.S. touring appearance on August 14, 1974, when they opened for R.I.P and Manfred Mann at the Pittsburgh Civic Arena. Demolished in the spring of 2012, the Civic Arena was a large, hemispherically domed arena that could accommodate over 17,000 and was the home of the Pittsburgh Penguins. A section of that domed roof could be rolled open, and often was during the many concerts I attended there, providing an exhilarating view of the city, especially at night. There were two other popular concert locations in Pittsburgh in the early 1970s. The then Stanley Theater downtown on 7th Street, which reopened after a major restoration project in 1987 as the Benedum Performing Arts Center, as well as the also now demolished Three Rivers Stadium, where I heard shows from bands like Pink Floyd and The Who. And it would have been quite likely that I would have attended Rush's first show there at the arena, opening for R.I.P, had I not seen Heap the previous year in August of 1973 during their Sweet Freedom Tour at the more immediate Johnstown War Memorial. While it was a smaller event arena with a capacity of just 4,000, it would be where I would also see the Edgar Winter Group with Rick Derringer touring their monstrous They Only Come Out at Night LP, and the James Gang with Tommy Bolin during their Bang Tour, all in 1973. In fact, just 12 days before Rush would make that first U.S. appearance at the arena, on August 2nd, I was there to see Emerson, Lake and Palmer perform their Brain Salad Surgery Tour, the first show I attended that was presented in 4-channel surround sound. But as it turned out, I would see Rick Wakeman, David Bowie, Miles Davis, Bad Company, Pink Floyd, even Jefferson Starship, before I would get to see Rush when they opened for Kiss on December 20th, 1975. With a set that included Bastille Day, Finding My Way, The Fountain of Lamneth, In the Mood, and a frenetic version of Working Man, it was still too early to catch even a glimmer of the enormous impact that their eventual blend of prog, intelligent heavy metal, and hard rock balladry would have on the music world in general, including fostering one of the most enduring, devoted, and distinct fan base relationships in all of popular music, both of which were well established the next two times I saw them, in the summer of 1990 during the Presto Tour, and finally in the summer of 1992 for the Roll the Bones Tour. Yet their beginnings were humble enough, as a band called The Projection was formed in August of 1968 in the Willowdale neighborhood of Toronto, Ontario, with then 16-year-old guitarist Alex Lifeson, a stage name, his childhood friend, drummer John Rutsey, and bassist and frontman Jeff Jones. Now, not long after they formed, John's brother suggested a name change to Rush because it was short, more graphic, and to the point. Later, as it became more difficult for everyone to make it to Alex's house to practice, Jeff actually suggested that Alex get another schoolmate, Geddy Lee, also a stage name, to step in on lead vocals and bass. When I first saw them, Neil Peart had replaced founding drummer John Rutsey, who had stepped down for ongoing health issues and a fundamental difference in musical direction. But Neil had become an integral part of the band, not only because of his remarkable drumming skills, but because of his creative, lyrical inspirations, drawing from fantasy, science fiction, and literary themes. Neil officially became Rush's drummer on July 29, 1974, Geddy's 21st birthday, and just 2 weeks before the band's first U.S. tour would kick off at the Civic Arena on August 14th. As well as maintaining an aggressive U.S. touring schedule, they found time to record and release Fly By Night in February of 1975, followed that September with Caress of Steel. Though the trio felt that they had created a breakthrough masterpiece with Caress, it dropped off the charts soon after its release, leaving them both disappointed and in a bit of a lurch with their record label, Mercury. It would be their fourth release, the futuristic and decisive 2112 in March of 1976, that would prove their elusive commercial breakthrough. Stating that if they were going to lose their record deal, they would do it their way, 2112 not only solidified their evolving sound, it remains their second best-selling album, behind today's featured Moving Pictures, and it alerted me and the progressive rock community in general to what this band may portend. My 2015 hologram-etched, autographed anthem reissue of 2112 hangs in prominence over my equipment rack. It was this incredibly innovative conflation of prog, heavy rock, and metal that the signature Rush sound finally emerged, demonstrating that they could create long, intricate, arching, cinematic pieces like the nearly 21-minute long title track, and could write catchy tracks with vocal melody and lyrical playfulness like Side 2's A Passage to Bangkok. But it was with their 8th studio release, 1981's Moving Pictures, recorded at Le Studio in Morin-Heights, Quebec, in October and November of 1980, that the band stretched to a new pinnacle, delivering an album widely regarded as not only their best effort, but one often referred to as one of the greatest progressive rock metal albums of all time. Soaring to number 1 in Canada and reaching number 3 on both the US and UK charts, Moving Pictures remains Rush's best-selling album with nearly 6 million copies sold. Let's take a track-by-track tour of this progressive masterwork. Side 1, Track 1, Tom Sawyer. Arguably their most renowned song, its distinctive backbeat 7/8 time signature provides its rhythmic complexity and intensity. It opens with an adrenaline-charged masterclass in drumming that sets the stage for the entire album. Neil's incomparable use of hi-hat and snare, stirring tom rolls, and bass drum work create an immediate impact. If you've ever wondered why musicologists think so highly of the talent and skills of Neil Peart, that question will be permanently put to rest after hearing this track. Alex has stated that his guitar solo was a spontaneous creation that was edited together by capturing the best contributions of his first 2 takes. Next, not only was this the first time that Geddy used his 1972 Fender Jazz bass, allowing him to deliver a fuller, punchier low end than he had ever been able to coax from his Rickenbacker 4001. It added the standout power of that big, growling low-end sound he was exploring using the Moog Taurus bass pedals and the Oberheim OBX synthesizer. Finally, because they had experienced technical difficulties using the studio's computer to mix tracks, they decided to manually operate the mixing console with each member handling their own set of faders, resulting in taking nearly a full day and a half to complete. But what an opener and an anthemic track that would propel them past their cult status with most rock music lovers. Side 1, Track 2, Red Barchetta. Though of the more common rock 4/4 time signature, Red Barchetta combines Neil's commanding storytelling with the trio's signature musical complexity and lucidly drives its musical message home. Inspired by the short story A Nice Morning Drive by Richard F. Foster, published in November of 1973 in Road and Track, a U.S. car enthusiast magazine, Neil substituted his revered Ferrari 166 Barchetta in place of the original story's MGB Roadster, giving the song its title. Set in the not-too-distant future, when cars have been outlawed, we are told that the narrator's uncle secretly maintains a classic convertible at his old farm, one that his nephew routinely takes out on the highway to experience the now forbidden thrill of driving. with lyrics like wind in my hair, shifting and drifting, mechanical music, adrenaline surge, every nerve aware, drive like the wind, straining the limits of machine and man. No song in the rock and roll canon more effectively communicates the sheer rush, of the exhilarations that driving a high-performance car at or near its limits can provide. On the day I turned 16, I came home with a 1967 convertible Triumph TR4A. And while not exactly a Ferrari, I can tell you that men my age most likely get the unchecked sense of exhilaration this track delivers. Side 1, Track 3, YYZ. Were you aware that this instrumental took its name from the IATA's airport code for Toronto's Pearson International Airport, the band's local airfield? The VHF omnidirectional range system broadcasts the YYZ identifier code in Morse code, and hearing its distinctive rhythm left a lasting impression on the band members, particularly Neil. The song's unusual 10/8 time signature gives it its odd rhythm and intricate cadence. From the opening cymbal strikes, it repeatedly renders the letters Y, Y, Z as they are represented by Morse code, using entirely musical arrangements. The piece's introduction was meant to be an exercise, similar to that of La Via Strangiato, the superb 9-minute instrumental from 1978's Hemispheres album, just not as long. But YYZ, as Canadians pronounce it, is an example of the pure technical prowess of Rush as musicians. Alex's solo is so masterfully intricate and challenging, with his phrasing, bends, and note choice evoking a sense of flight and adventure. Geddy's bass solo showcases his melodic sensibilities, and his phrasing and fluid runs are sublime. Neil's opening drum pattern, featuring its syncopated rhythm, immediately grabs your attention, while his drum fills are a masterclass in creativity. Just fabulous. Side 1, Track 4, Limelight. Most fans will be aware that the lyrics for Limelight came from Neil's general discomfort with the attention and scrutiny that comes with fame. Though it starts in a 4/4 time signature, at the instrumental break, it shifts to what may be seen as either 7/4 time or what some prefer to see as alternating measures of 4/4 and 3/4. Either way, the changes add a sense of complexity and tension to this powerful track, giving it a pulse that makes it impossible to ignore, keeping you highly engaged. The conclusion of Limelight brings us to the close of one of rock's perfect sides. As we move to side 2, I find it interesting and perhaps not insignificant that while side 1 explores the use of so many uniquely different time signatures, side 2 seems to revel in the more common measures that the 4/4 signature offers, providing that steady, familiar rhythmic foundation. Side 2, Track 1, The Camera Eye. The opening uses an audio clip of a busy metropolis city taken from Richard Donner's 1978 film, Superman, to set the stage. This is a 2-part track, beginning with a sequencer intro, following that straight 4/4 time signature, offering musical impressions of both New York and London. The rhythmic structure is used to provide a solid foundation for the song's exploration of the cultural differences between the two cities, with New York portrayed as grim-faced and forbidding, and the decided shift in tone helps depict London as wistful and weathered. And while the band never had shied away from longer compositions, coming in at 10 minutes and 56 seconds, many choose to see some significance in noting that The Camera Eye was the last Rush song to ever exceed 10 minutes in length. Side 2, Track 2, Witch Hunt. This is one of my absolute favorite Rush tunes. Its eerie and haunting atmosphere is masterfully crafted. It opens with the sound of what seem to be the voices of an angry mob. To create this effect, the band and studio staff recorded themselves shouting and carrying on outside in the driveway at Le Studio in what was reportedly sub-zero temperatures, relying on a bottle of scotch to help stay warm. But the subsequent tracks were overdubbed repeatedly until they created what sounded like a vigilante mob to amplify the sensation of fear and suspense of the track. Neil has stated that, unlike many other Rush songs, this was a true studio production, featuring a broad array of percussive instruments, including gong bass drums, wind chimes, the glockenspiel, tubular bells, congas, cowbells, a vibroslap, and other various electronic effects, including double tracking his percussion work during one verse. He further explained that the song's lyrics were a critique of what he saw as the escalation of intolerance of that era, reflecting some of the pervasive moods of the late 1970s and early 1980s. The main riff was written and performed on synthesizer by Hugh Syme, the Canadian Juno Award-winning graphic artist who created the band's famous Starman logo and who has been their art director since the Caress of Steel record. And maintaining its steady 4/4 rhythm throughout only serves to underwrite its haunting and atmospheric quality. Of particular interest here is that the track was recorded on December 8, 1980, the day that John Lennon was gunned down and fatally wounded in the archway of his Dakota residence in New York City by Mark David Chapman. Side 2, Track 3, Vital Signs. An atmospheric exploration pieced together at Le Studio. This closing track, again in 4/4, features an Oberheim OBX synthesizer sequencer section, and with its fusion of rock and new wave influences, it not only showcases the band's versatility, it features a distinctive reggae-inspired bass line from Getty, an expression that first surfaced on their previous release, 1980's Permanent Waves, and would become even more prevalent over their next two albums, 1982's Signals and 1984's Grace Under Pressure. Touching on themes of self-awareness and the human experience, portraying and exploring the instability and unpredictability of day-to-day existence, and the universal struggle to navigate life's complexities and find purpose, they seem to be inviting introspection, celebrating individuality, and encouraging resilience. An interesting set of questions, framing a most provocative tone with which to close this masterpiece. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Rush, this is the album to spark your education. Whether you are familiar with this record or not, its lasting impact not only convincingly demonstrates their inventive fusion of progressive rock with heavy and progressive metal elements, but it showcases their intricate compositions, complex time signatures, thought-provoking lyrics, and their unquestioned, utter mastery of their instruments. Make no mistake, these are three of the most accomplished and talented musicians to ever make progressive rock music. Fans will know that we said goodbye to Neil on January 7th, 2020, which is why I'm wearing his likeness on my shirt in my first episode here, which appeared just 4 months later on May 10th, 2020. I no longer have my original 1981 U.S. first pressing, pressed by PRC in Richmond, Indiana. I gave it to a friend some while back, as once I got my original 1981 UK first pressing, mastered by Bob Ludwig at Masterdisc in New York City, and pressed by Phonogram Limited in London. It was a bit more open-sounding, offered better microdynamic expression, and had a more natural sense of bloom and body to the lowest frequencies in particular. Now, I also have the 2015 200-gram Anthem reissue, mastered by Sean McGee at Abbey Road Studios and pressed by QRP, as well as the 2022 Gatefold 180-gram Anthem 40th Anniversary Edition, a DMM half-speed mastered reissue pressed by GZ Media of the Czech Republic, but I can uncover no further detail on the mastering or lacquer transfers. Of these two, the 2015 reissue is a tad quieter, slightly more dynamic, and offers more clarity and nuance when compared to the 2022 40th Anniversary release. But the 40th Anniversary release offers a bit more punch in the low end than the 2015 release. Overall, my original 1981 UK release presents the most natural, resolute, and tonally faithful presentation, particularly in the low end, of any version I have heard of this masterpiece on LP. Now, for you digiphiles, the 24-bit 192 kHz stream from Qobuz is excellent, as are both the 1992 Mobile Fidelity Original Master Recording Ultra Disc 2 Remastered Reissue on 24-karat gold, and the 1997 US Anthem The Rush Remasters version CD. If I'm pushed, I'd have to admit to leaning toward the MoFi OMR Ultra Disc 2, as it is a little warmer and full-sounding overall. Details for all releases are provided in today's description. As always, thanks for taking the time to drop by today. Further information on supporting the channel may be found in today's description section or at my website, theaudioanalyst.com. Please stay safe and keep the music playing. Till next time, cheers.